Hi, Mark. It works now.
Okay, thank
It
you.
just says that the meeting host will let you in soon. That's it.
Nothing about QET.
No more.
Good. Everyone's going to go, QET, what's that? QET.
Okay, great. It looks
All
good.
right, so where's Jody?
She will reappear. Don't worry.
Okay, so we've got
Jody.
Esther Hoy. I don't know where she's from. Casey, Marissa, Patrick, Gallo, Susan, and Victor waiting at the moment.
Great. It's all the people we know.
Here's Jody. Okay. Okay, Jody, do you want to come in twice?
Yes, yes, I'm dialing in from the other computer now.
All right.
She's got her setup already.
Yes.
Yeah.
We talked about having two computers in the session that who was it that Marissa did, I think.
Yeah, yeah, the one that Marissa facilitated. Yeah.
Apart from that, I've given you sharing, so you can share whenever you want.
Thank you.
And we can start letting people in when you're ready.
Okay, let me try sharing screen from my second computer first.
Okay.
But you're not dialed in.
And yeah, I'm
Oh,
going to be admitted. Yeah.
Yeah, there.
Jody, do you need to mute yourself on the other device or just leave it like that?
I didn't join the sound.
Got it.
That's how we eliminate the echo. Otherwise, it's terrible.
Yeah.
Then wait. Let me try to go into the slideshow mode.
Yep.
I do have that weird black thing, but I don't know how to. Just now, it didn't happen though.
It happens on the window if you have some other things that go over it. Yeah, yeah. So this one is the you know, on Zoom there's this thing that comes out. Yeah. So whatever extra things that goes onto the screen, it comes out black. I noticed it this few days. I think it's a new update.
But just now when we tried, it didn't happen.
It was fine. Why don't you just try going to the next slide? If the black thing doesn't make too much impact, then we can just, oh, it's still there.
Yeah, no, I can hide the floating control panel, the one on the top.
Yeah.
That is fine, but then the one at
it still comes out.
I don't know why it's so strange. Oops.
It's okay.
Sorry,
it's nothing to do with slideshow. It's still when you go back to the PPT thing, the non-slideshow, it still shows.
You want me to do it? I can try.
No, it's
Jody?
okay. No, it's okay. What do you mean? You try to share?
Oh.
Plus the video?
Oh, sorry.
Because we have the video. Sorry.
Okay, go for it.
I think we just go with it.
That will just.
It doesn't cover the text. It's okay.
Yeah, I think
you might just mention that it's an add-on or something. You need to update the Zoom.
More like Zoom updated and made it with, yeah.
They updated it without telling anyone.
Yes.
I noticed it the last 2 days. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Should I let people in then? Are you ready?
Yes.
We are.
Yes, yes.
We're okay.
Yeah.
So we have 10 coming in.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi. Hello, Kawan.
Hi.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Charlene.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
How are
Hi,
you,
Victor.
Charlene?
Hi, Doreen.
You're looking good.
Victor, hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Okay.
Enjoy your lunch.
Enjoy your lunch.
Hi, Marissa. Hi, Ernie.
Marissa.
Hello.
Ernie.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi everyone, welcome. I see that most of our participants are CELC. We're also hoping to get some participants from further afield, Malaysia and Philippines, and even an interested party from the UK. So we're hoping to make it an international event as well. The title of today's session is, which is the fourth in the CELC speaker series, is Riding the MOOC Wave, Lessons Learned and the Way Forward. And the speakers, as most of you know, are Eileen Lam, Jody Liu, and Sylvia Sim. And they're all three of them lecturers at the Centre for English Language Communication here at the National University of Singapore. And all three have extensive experience of tertiary teaching. And all three are passionate about digital technologies. And in their biographies as well on the MOOC, they talk about being highly interested in developing students' professional communication skills and intercultural awareness. And I think if you look at their bios as well, that they represent ideal teachers for that, having amongst them lived and worked in Algeria, Hong Kong, India, Pakistan, the United Kingdom and the United States. And I probably missed out some countries there too. So very international backgrounds. So if you don't mind, Eileen, Jody and Sylvia, I'll just let people come in as they arrive, and you can start when you want to.
Shall we begin?
Let's do it.
Okay, we shall begin then. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for all being here. I know it's a really busy time of the year, and I'm glad to see all of you. So Eileen, Jody, and I are pleased to be here today to share with you some insights from our experience in creating the MOOC for edX. So let me tell you more about riding the MOOC wave, lessons learned, and the way forward. We came together on this project in 2018. Perhaps let me just start by sharing, we should start by sharing our stories. What were our motivations and rationale for wanting to do this? So perhaps Eileen, you may want to start first.
Okay, so I'll start. So for me, I've always been interested in EdTech, and I've been dabbling in online course creation. So I really wanted to do this MOOC really for interest, for fun, and I really wanted to work with Sylvia and Jody on this project. So that's my story. Jody, what about you?
Yes, thanks, Eileen. So for me, because I've worked with Eileen on an internal MOOC we developed for the NUS community. So I think that the idea of designing a MOOC for the global audience would be quite an exciting learning opportunity. And plus it has been a very wonderful working experience, working with Eileen. So I was very excited to join the project again with her.
Yeah.
Sylvia?
Thank you, Jody. Unlike Eileen and Jody, I have no experience working on MOOCs. In fact, I'm the oldest newbie of the group, as I said. So I have just converted my IS 2101 module to a blended one. And there I realized that I really needed to know more about technology and decided to jump into the deep end. So I must say that I've learned so much working with Eileen and Jody. And yeah, so let's go on. So that's each of our motivation. Now let's talk a little bit about the nature of MOOC. So we have our reasons for wanting to work on MOOC. Now, education institutions like NUS are increasingly leveraging on MOOCs, not only to enhance their visibility and branding, but it was also to create opportunities for educators like us to develop professionally in terms of online curriculum design and pedagogical approaches. As Eileen has said, MOOC has an international reach, so educators gain new perspectives And these perspectives are quite different from the conventional graduates and undergraduate education in a university. So MOOCs are sufficiently flexible to be able to support the learning needs of a diverse group of people, and many of them independent learners, both university students and professionals from different parts of the world. Now, all this was in line with NUS global approach in education research and entrepreneurship, and with a focus on Asian perspectives and expertise. And so our story began. We created this MOOC entitled edX titled Intercultural Communication, Land a Job and Do It Well. We had an interesting journey and we learned much, but our experiences only showed us that there is still a lot more to learn, and this motivated us to deepen our research into MOOC development. We are therefore here today to share with you some of the lessons we have learned and also our plans for this MOOC moving forward. But let us first share some details about this particular MOOC. The MOOC is a 6-week program, and our intended audience at the start were fresh graduates breaking into the job market. The learning objectives were therefore to enhance their professional communication skills so that by enhancing their branding, and so that's how they are able to perform well in a culturally diverse workplace. We are now running the 3rd iteration of the MOOC. Here you can see the numbers for each of the 3 runs. We started off in the first run with 835 participants from 84 countries. The second run attracted more than 1,600 participants from 98 countries. And now we are in the midst of our 3rd run, and to date, we have 2,658 participants from 91 countries. The ages of our learners range from the youngest at 23 years old to the oldest at 64 years old. Interestingly, while our intended audience were fresh graduates, the median age of our learners is 31 years old. This shows that many of the learners were already employed and wanted to gain new perspectives of a dynamic and increasingly diverse workplace. So pleased though we were about the reach and diversity of our learners, we also had challenges that we needed to manage. Being one of the first 3 MOOCs from NUS to be published on edX, we did not have the advantage of having established processes and procedures that we could fall back on. As a new venture, we needed to learn as we progressed. The challenges we faced were threefold. The first area was in the area of content and pedagogy. We developed a robust curriculum that differentiated our course from the myriad of professional communication MOOCs available. And also we had to ensure that it was relevant and added value. We sought to increase engagement by meeting the needs of diverse learners in a global context. We also needed to ensure that the course design was effectively supported by technology, and we had to develop new skill sets and work with specialists in filming and video production. We also had to adapt when designing the course to take into consideration the affordances of an edX learning platform. This, as I found out, was quite different from designing curriculum for classroom teaching. Finally, as this was in the public domain, we needed to ensure accountability and manage legal and financial requirements such as copyrights and intellectual property issues, and also the funding and the budget control. So as you can see, our learning curve was steep, and we needed to take action in all these 3 areas to overcome the challenges in order to successfully roll out our MOOC. So reflecting on our experiences, we came up with a framework that reflects an ecosystem that supported the development of our MOOC. These elements work together to help us deal with the challenges that I've just mentioned. Creating content and providing pedagogical rigor is crucial, but without the technical and administrative support, it would not have been possible. Let me now pass on the time to Eileen and Jody, who will be elaborating on the content and pedagogical elements. Eileen?
Okay, thank
Sorry.
you, Sylvia. So I'm going to start by talking a little bit about the content and pedagogy. And let me just share a little bit about how we found a niche, how we developed a framework, and then how we decided on the way we wanted to present our materials. So let me share how we narrowed down on the topic for our MOOC, because the thing about MOOCs is that there are so many options online. And if you do a quick search on communication courses on edX today, you will see that there are many offerings and many choices for people to choose from. So we understood that it was no longer about what we want to put up online, since there are so many choices out there. So we wanted and we decided to do market research to understand what communication courses were already being offered on different platforms so that we could find a unique selling point for ourselves. So after some digging and looking around, we realized that there weren't any online courses that delved deeply into intercultural nuances at the workplace. Also, we felt that there was a lack of Asian perspectives, and we recognized how important it is to adapt and communicate well at a globalized workplace. Okay, so that's the first thing. The second thing we found was that there were other online courses that dealt with topics such as resume or interview skills, negotiation or presentations individually. So we decided to put all those topics to land a job and perform well at work together in a one-course solution. So that was the idea that we had. So let me now pass the time to Jody, who will explain a little bit more about our conceptual journey in creating the curriculum.
Thank you very much, Eileen. So as mentioned by Eileen, the intercultural communication is our MOOCs positioning. So that is also the starting point of our conceptual journey. So we consult the, the intercultural angle of our MOOC is grounded in the works of established scholars in the field, such as Geert Hofstede, Edward T. Hawke, and Richard Nisbet. We also consulted the empirical studies on the cultural underpinnings of persuasion, verbal communication styles, and even technical communication, just to name a few. And from the intercultural perspective, collectivism, individualism, high context culture, low context culture, holistic thinking or analytical thinking could play a part in how individuals present themselves professionally. So this leads us to the next step of our conceptual journey, which involves defining the personal branding. So a personal brand can be defined as a consistent, marketable, and ostensibly authentic self-image that underlies one's reputation and, by extension, employability. It has also been conceptualized as a multidimensional construct that involves social and cultural capital. Here is defined as the knowledge, skills, training, and education that help an individual demonstrate and grow status among their peers. So a personal brand also includes the mediated and verbal self-presentation, authenticity, and even appearance. So the multidimensional nature of a personal brand then compels us to explore how we could adopt the notion of multiple intelligences to develop a relevant and timely framework to ground our syllabus. So conceptually, the importance of multiple intelligences has been well documented in the leadership and business communication literature. For example, Allen and Higgins highlight the importance of IQ, EQ, and CQ in leadership development. Stoltz introduced a new intelligence called the adversity quotient, and arguing that it plays a crucial role in determining how tasks could be successfully carried out. So empirical research on the multiple intelligences in business operation has suggested that effective leadership must go beyond having high IQ for rational decision making. So we look into the literature, and we have found some empirical research that demonstrate, the efficacy of all these additional quotients. For example, the emotional intelligence EQ has been shown to work hand in hand with IQ to help corporations materialize their corporate strategies. AQ has been found to mediate the influence of work ethics on job performance. Now, lastly, an Indonesian-based research finds that personal values and cultural competence simultaneously have positive and significant effect on the personal brand of both the expatriates and local employees. So what we can see here from the growing literature on the 4 quotients above is that possibly IQ, EQ, AQ, and CQ could actually form the 4 pillars of one personal brand, right? And then the diagram here provides a very brief explanation of what each quotient means and how each of them can contribute to a compelling personal brand that demonstrates sound strategy and foresight, empathy, intercultural competence, and resilience. So in practice, what we actually recommend here is that the 4 quotients will help frame one's qualifications, working experiences, and personalities. So the key elements that constitute those content or the substance of the personal brand. Then the quotients also manifest in how one actually communicates that very personal brand verbally and non-verbally. So overall, by anchoring the content and communication of a personal brand within the IQ, EQ, AQ, CQ framework, individuals could develop a more comprehensive and compelling narrative of who they are and what they could contribute to the company. So at this juncture, I would like to zoom into the verbal communication aspect of the personal branding process and to explain how we leverage Vanlier's language awareness to ensure that the course has a clear language focus reflective of CELC identity. So language awareness is defined as explicit knowledge about language and conscious perception and sensitivity in language learning, language teaching, and language use. So here, just a little bit of theoretical explanation here. According to Vanlier, there are 4 levels of language awareness. Level 1 refers to learners' consciousness of language use in specific social contexts. For example, the learner should be aware of the fact that the language used in an informal chat with a friend should be different from a formal presentation. So at level 2, then the learners are able to perceive a particular aspect of a communicative practice. So back to the earlier example, the perception could be about the formality of word choices, sentence structures, or even cultural differences that may govern how certain ideas should be expressed in a formal presentation, for example. So at level 3, learners develop both practical and discursive awareness that allow them to use precise terms to analyze and assess others' language use, as well as use language purposefully and creatively by themselves. So level 4, critical awareness, is where learners could derive some kind of meaningful connections between certain communicative practices and social ideological practices. So now let's take a look at some examples from our course. So this is a screenshot of a discussion forum activity based on topic 5 of the course. So this topic dealt with the topic of presenting persuasively in the workplace. And the scenario features a communicative context that involves a facilitator of a workshop and 3 participants. So each participant has a very different take on how firm English teachers should be in enforcing the English-only rule in the classroom. So this draws learners' attention to level 1 situated language use that involves people discussing a particular topic in a formal setting. So then the forum discussion questions ask learners how they would respond to the various opinions held by the workshop participants if they were the workshop facilitator. So prior to participating in the forum, then the learners are expected to watch a lecture video that covers cultural patterns that may influence people's thoughts and actions. So this kind of gears learners' perception towards the intercultural underpinning of reasoning styles, mirroring level 2 transitive consciousness. Then the lecture video also introduces terms needed to analyze a particular utterance from the intercultural perspective. So it's terms such as holistic thinking, analytical thinking, ego-focused emotions, and other focused emotions. Then with this, then learners have the mental tools to analyze the opinions put forth by the participants in the scenario. So this kind of mirror level 3 meta-consciousness. So now let's move on to look at some responses on the course forum to see how these levels of language awareness are manifested. Okay. So the first response, as you can see here, manifests level 2 and level 3 quite clearly. So the respondent uses appropriate intercultural terms to unpack the cultural reasons behind each statement. Then based on the earlier analysis, the respondent was able to propose nuanced ways to address the possible potential conflicts between, different opinions. Now, in the second response, I just want to draw the attention to level 4, the critical awareness. It is reflected in how the respondent actually links the importance of acknowledging the cultural diversity of this particular communicative context and highlight the need to be sensitive to any possible socio-political issues that may arise during a language classroom. All right. I think that the respondent didn't really elaborate specifically what could be the sensitive issue, but this is somewhat reflective of level 4, the critical awareness from this adult learner. All right. So now I just want to highlight one more examples of how we also use all these 4 quotients. So earlier we posted that IQ, EQ, AQ, and CQ are the 4 pillars of a personal brand. So these quotients are also captured in the language items taught in other topics of the course. So firstly, we would actually introduce vocabulary to help the learners articulate their competence in all 4 quotients, such as the use of technical jargons and expressions to showcase their abilities. We also covered how they should structure their ideas to demonstrate their reasoning skills, or IQ, right? And then we also highlight how learners can demonstrate their emotional intelligence by using, positive language appropriately, or make sure that you use negative language quotient, or if possible, avoid them, or use, understand the implication of neutral words or the use of hedging in the communication. So then the connection between the use of action words to emphasize their ability to handle adversity, AQ, was also touched on in some of the course videos. Lastly, we also emphasized the use of culturally appropriate words and phrases to showcase their cultural intelligence. So for example, we talk about the use of we versus I in collectivist culture and individualistic culture. We also talk about the use of direct language and indirect language in low context versus high context culture. And then we also highlight to the learners the need to adapt the formality in language use based on the power distance cultural dimension. All right. So in summary, starting with the need to approach professional communication from the angle of intercultural communication and personal branding, our conceptual journey took us from exploring the foundational intercultural communication theories to defining personal branding and linking all of these to the literature on multiple intelligences in business context, and finally angling the course content through the lens of language awareness. So now I shall pass my time to Eileen, who will share more about how we develop and present the materials to our global learners via the edX platform. Eileen, please.
Okay, thank you, Jody. So, okay, just a quick summary. So after we found our niche and we anchored our course curriculum with the IQ, EQ, AQ, CQ framework, that's when we really had to consider how we wanted to present the materials to our MOOC audiences. So let's talk a little bit about course design. But we need to first understand our Mooc learners. All right, so Mooc learners are generally more self-directed, and they often practice selective learning. So what this means is that they engage with topics aligned with their personal interests and motivations. So they may not necessarily complete a course in a linear fashion. They may not go through topics 1, 2, then 3. So they may pick and choose and perhaps look at topic 2, then jump to 4, and then 3, and then back to 1. So for them, there is also no need to go through every material in the course. So they may not complete the course in the way we would generally expect our students to in traditional programs. Okay, so what we did on our end is we decided to clearly demarcate our topics, with the first 2 topics focusing on the job search, the next 3 dealing with workplace communication. And students can choose to go straight to those topics that interest them or go through the topics one by one. So we leave that up to them. Now, in addition, each topic is subdivided into bite-sized content, which again, the learner can decide to go through or skip depending on their needs. So the next slide will show an example of the bite-sized content provided in topic 1. So this is how we split it up. All right, let's move on then, and let's talk about engagement. So in terms of engagement, we were very conscious of the transactional distance that participants face being separated by space and time in a MOOC. So the course was really designed to allow learners to achieve understanding through interaction between the learner and the content, the learner and the instructors, as well as the learner with other learners. So we applied what we understood about interaction to the creation of videos, readings, and activities with more theory of transactional distance in mind. So let me dive a little deeper into the types of videos we created to engage the learners. So we created lecture videos to explain key concepts and principles, but we also had scenario videos to provide the context and workplace scenarios to apply those concepts in. We also included interview videos with professionals who shared their views about workplace communication, as well as their personal experiences and observations in their industries. So to create the videos, now that is the part where I think many of us, we start thinking about the things we need to do. And to create the videos, we started by writing, testing, and editing the storyboards before rehearsing and doing the actual studio recording. If you look at the scenario videos, not only did we have to write the scripts, we also had to conduct auditions. We had to cast actors for each role. We had to conduct rehearsals before the actual filming. And in terms of interview videos, right, we had to work with CFG to invite industry members to share their views, but we also had to work very closely with the interviewees for approvals for scheduling. Now, beyond the creation of materials such as videos, we had to create activities to facilitate learner interaction. So we encourage learner content interaction by creating opportunities for learners to apply what they have learned and to create their own products, such as an introductory video, a cover letter, and a pitch. We also encourage learner-learner interaction through topical discussions and peer reviews in the first run. And this enabled learners to negotiate meaning with their learning community. We also encourage learner-instructor interaction by replying to forums, sending weekly group emails, and writing personalized emails to the learners so that they could ask questions and clarify any doubts that they had. So up to this point, we have shared a lot about what we did in terms of our MOOC content and pedagogy, but there were other challenges that we faced. So I'll now pass the time back to Sylvia. Sylvia.
Thank you, Eileen. So Eileen and Jody have shared with you our rationale for designing the MOOC and also our experiences in putting the content together. We tapped on our expertise as educationists, but that alone was not enough. We required technical and administrative support to make the MOOC a reality. Let me explain further. First, let's look at the technical support we needed. Technology know-how was needed not only to produce content for the MOOC, such as the videos and the interactive activities, but also in managing the MOOC platform, the edX MOOC platform. All these required a wider range of skills that was beyond our expertise as NUS lecturers. Technical support was given by the technology specialist from the Center of Instructional Technology, in other words, CIT. Earlier, Eileen has already taken you through the steps that we took to produce the various types of videos. Now, the production team from CIT provided technical support which facilitated the pre-production, production, and the post-production of these videos. In the pre-production stage, the advice and guidance given by CIT ensured that our script, visuals, and animations were compatible and coherent in the storyboarding. During the production, sound, lights, videos expertise was provided for both the studio and outdoor recordings. The production team helped with the directing of the actors and camera to get the right angle and shoots during location shoots. In the post-production stage, footages were edited and refined to produce videos. Images and clips were then added together with animation and sound editing to bring it all together. Then scenario videos were then inserted into the lecture videos, and interview footages were edited, cut, and mended to create multiple videos for various topics. Now that's not all. Once the video content of the MOOC was ready, we needed to put all this up onto the edX platform and to manage it. The project team, a separate team at CIT, with some inputs from the Provost Office, liaised with edX, and they advised us on the recommended course fees and the publication dates for our MOOC course. The team then uploaded our videos as well as add the widgets to the website to support the interactive activities such as the quizzes and the peer reviews. Now, because the platform was more complex than we were used to, CIT was a great help in guiding us in the management of the MOOC, and it helped us to enter the system, to view and evaluate assignments, to manage the peer reviews, and also to analyze the learners' data. So as you can see, these are all the tasks that the CIT colleagues helped us with when we ran the module for the first time. Subsequently, they also helped when we made changes to the module in the second and the third run of the course. Now, we also needed to work with other units in the university for administrative support. Being one of the first modules that was mounted on edX platform, we needed to work with these units to establish procedures and protocols to ensure governance. Creating a MOOC is very labor intensive, as you can see, and it requires a lot of time and effort. So CELC has been very supportive in terms of recognizing our work as our service area. Without their support, it would be difficult to manage all this on top of our obligations. It is important for future MOOC developers to be realistic about work commitment. Negotiating deployment and workload arrangements with home departments helps. Working in a team like we have also helps in the work distribution. Producing a MOOC is also very costly, and application for funding is an important consideration. Advice and inputs from the CELC management and the Provost Office was very helpful in helping us put together a proposal to secure LIFT funding. Once the funding was secured, we managed the budget and worked with CELC finance team and the Provost Office on budget management. So this included managing quotations, invoices, approvals, and also for making claims and payments. It is with the support of the Office of Legal Affairs that we clarified our understanding of intellectual property rights and copyrights issues pertaining to images and video clips. This led to an updated release and license to use intellectual property form for MOOC developers, which provided clearer guidelines for future NUS MOOC developers and partners such as CIT, who assisted in the video production. We also drew up an academic contract suitable for MOOC development. Now, this contract ascertains the ownership of the course as well as the risk and liabilities of the parties involved. We researched the MOOC development guidelines of other universities before we negotiated workable guidelines with the NUS legal team, and together we defined terms and conditions to suit the NUS context. We collaborated, as Eileen has said, with the Center for Future Ready Graduates and tapped on their networks to source suitable candidates for our industry interviews videos. They worked with us to negotiate with the represented organizations to gain approval for using their video footage. And finally, we also enlisted the help of the Center for Fine Arts to put out our casting call for actors and actresses to star in our scenario videos. We publicized our casting poster on their website. So overall, our teamwork in partnership with CFG, CFA, CIT, the team from the Provost Office and the NUS legal team has been instrumental to the successful development of the MOOC. It has also been highlighted the need to adapt present processes to accommodate the pedagogical, technical, administrative, and even the legal functions of MOOC development. Now, our journey so far has been an enriching experience with lots of learning opportunities. We summed it all up in this video that we made. While you watch the video, do think of any questions you might want to ask us or any thoughts that you might want to share with us. We would really love to hear your views after the presentation.
Our team from CELC came together with an idea to teach professional communication skills online. We found that employers seek those who not only exhibit intelligence and empathy, but also those who demonstrate cultural sensitivity and resilience. We decided to raise language awareness and cultivate communication skills in the context of the workplace, but we wanted to find out what was already available in the market. We realized that learners needed to enroll in multiple online courses to learn different communication skills like CV writing, interview skills, conflict management, and presentation skills. We also realized that the intercultural nuances of communication at work had not been fully explored online, so we decided to put them all together in our MOOC titled Intercultural Communication at Work, Land the Job and Do It Well. We developed a framework, drafted a curriculum, put together a proposal, and applied for funding. Now, this was only the beginning. We had constant team discussions to refine the curriculum and meetings with other departments on possible collaborations, course design, video production, administrative matters, and even legal issues. On our end, we focused on the curriculum and course design to encourage interaction with the content, instructors, and other learners. It all started with the lecture videos. We wrote our scripts, visualized our content, and put them in our storyboards. But we weren't sure if we were really on the right track, so we tested our storyboards by inviting students to give feedback before refining our scripts. Only then did we do our studio recordings, and we worked closely with CIT to add images, animations, music, and even scenario videos into our lecture videos. We wanted learners to see concepts play out in real life through the scenario videos, so we created characters, wrote scripts, scouted for filming locations, and liaised with CIT for the filming crew. We also made a call for actors and conducted auditions. Then we casted our actors, rehearsed with them, and filmed over 2 days. On the back end, we managed the budget for the crew and actors, sorted out the appointment letters, filming schedule, media consent forms, and payment details. Now, we wanted to add another layer of authenticity by hearing from industry, so we approached CFG, who linked us up with industry leaders. For the video interviews, we also worked with their Corp Comms teams to vet our questions and sort out the media release forms. After the interviews, we looked through the raw footage to decide on the mending of the clips, and we worked closely with CIT again to produce the final videos. We also conducted email interviews and created write-ups, which allowed us to increase our repertoire of companies represented. We decided to take it one step further and conducted outdoor interviews with job seekers at the NUS Career Fair. We also tried out different styles of filming based on CIT's recommendations. Beyond videos and readings, we created scenario-based quizzes and interactive activities that even required extra widgets on the edX platform. We also included topical discussions and peer reviews to encourage instructor and learner interaction. While attempting to create more interactive experiences, we realized that the edX platform is more complex than what we were used to, and some activities required HTML or coding expertise. So we were thankful that CIT supported us while we were still learning to use the platform. In all, we believe that a successful MOOC requires not only good content and sound course design, but also requires teamwork and partnerships with technical and administrative functions. With a supportive team, we managed to attract more than 800 participants from 89 countries in our first run, and we look forward to more participants in the second run of this course.
So moving forward, our journey does not stop here. So the question we really have to ask ourselves is, what are some of the lessons we have learned? And from here, how do we plan to move forward? Let me share some of our thoughts and ideas. After the first run, we made some changes based on our observation. One of these changes was to switch from an instructor pace to a learner pace module. Let me explain. Topics in an instructor pace module was released weekly, whereas in a learner pace module, all the topics were released at the same time. We made this change for a couple of reasons. An instructor pace arrangement allowed us to make changes along the way, and this was useful for the first time. But subsequently, when we were more confident that there would be minimal changes that we need to make, we switched to a learner pace arrangement to allow learners to join at any time during the 6 weeks, and also to give learners the flexibility of selective learning. So they're not obliged to wait for unit 1 and then wait for unit 2, but they can actually have they are privy to all the units all at the same time. The other change we made after the first run was to change peer reviews to graded, system-graded assessments. We found that learners were generally not keen to participate in peer reviews, and with a learner pace arrangement, peer reviews would have been very tricky, and not workable. Now, MOOC can have the potential to offer a value in other contexts, such as the modules that we teach here in NUS. The three of us have leveraged on this MOOC to enhance the modules we teach and used it to broaden our students' perspectives. This promotes self-directed learning amongst our students. Eileen teaches CS2101, Effective Communication for Computing Professionals. In this module, students use the material from the MOOC as resource to create their first peer teaching presentation. Jody coordinates EG3611A, an industrial attachment program for the Faculty of Engineering. The MOOC is included in CELC's embedded instructions as self-directed learning resource that engineering interns can audit and learn at their own pace. I teach IS2101, which is a scenario-based module to help students from the School of Computing acquire effective workplace communication skills. This MOOC is recommended to students to deepen their understanding and to contextualize the impact of personal branding in the workplace. Sorry. So, as long as the MOOC is offered on edX, we need to ensure that we keep up with the changes in this field to remain relevant. We need to review and revise the learning activities after each run to better respond to learner and market needs. While we reinforce the key communication concepts, we need to adapt the curriculum to reflect the latest industry trends and practices. For example, the changing dynamics of job application from traditional cover letter and resume approach to include current practices of online application and keyword searches. So we hope that by sharing our experiences, we can offer some insights on what it takes to develop a successful MOOC. Do you have any questions at this point? We will be happy to take questions from the floor. So with this, we end our presentation. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eileen, Jody, and Sylvia. So yes, so as Sylvia just said, if you'd like to ask a question, please feel free to take the floor, or you can write a question in the chat function if you prefer.
Any questions?
So while we're waiting, I do have a question. You've run the program 3 times now, you said, with multiple countries. So you must have quite a lot of feedback from the students who have completed the certificate, because there is a certificate, isn't there, at the end of the module if you pay, is that right?
Yes, that's right. But that's only if you take the verified course. Yeah.
Okay.
So
what kind of feedback have you had from people who have done the module?
Right. So at the end of our course, we actually put up a survey, and then some of the participants replied, but not all do. But we've taken a look at it, and they've generally been very kind with their comments. Yeah, so the comments from the course participants that we see in the survey form has generally been positive. However, because this course is also taken by my students in CS2 101, I get verbal feedback from them. Right. And because they use the materials from my course, from the edX to present, I hear casual feedback from them that perhaps certain things may no longer be as relevant now. For example, writing cover letters, because currently now people put in their applications online. So maybe the emphasis on cover letters can be a little bit lesser. So we hear things like that. And also with the COVID situation and having lots of online meetings and online interviews, there's also feedback that there is some change going on. So that is the reason why we are keen on revamping our course and bringing in some new elements, new context to our course. Sylvia, you have anything, or Jody, anything to add on?
Not really, but just to add also that the other than whether it's positive or negative feedback, it was actually very interesting to also get some views from them, because many of them are already in employment. Although we originally targeted fresh graduates, but we actually get feedback from people from the workplace to reflect what is actually happening out there. And it was very interesting to see the kinds of fields that these people are coming from people in the public service to activists. Even I still remember somebody very passionate about the environment writing to us, and it's all about the communication. And so their views, although generally quite positive, I just want to stress that it's not just getting feedback to reflect on our course, but their feedback also help us to understand what the situation out there is really like. And I find that I learn a lot from the feedback that they've given, not about the course, but about the situation out there.
And that will be on the forums.
Yes.
Yeah, that's when we are reading your forums. Yeah.
Jody, anything to add?
Yeah, I think if there's anything I would like to share is there was one feedback that kind of caught my attention. Is a learner said that the content is too white collar focused.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So I just trying to think from the perspective of the learners, and maybe we could also see how we can make the content more inclusive, or think about various scenarios that people from all professions, they can glean some insight, some nuggets of insight that they can apply in their professions. Yeah.
Anybody else have a question they'd like to ask?
I think just now Marissa unmuted herself. Marissa,
Sorry.
you have a question?
Yeah, I just had, I think it's something that I'm just interested in, because with the multiple intelligences theory, I think there have been some questions about it in terms of, especially in relating it to cognitive abilities, right? So I'm kind of wondering, why you guys use that as a basis. Yeah, sorry, just something that I was interested in. Yeah, thanks.
Sylvia, would you like to share your
Marissa, would
thoughts?
you like to elaborate on what are the issues with the multi-intelligences literature?
I think I haven't read it quite thoroughly, I would say. It's just that sometimes it pops up on my Facebook and I'm like, oh, this is by Howard Gardner. So what's the issue with this? So I think from what I know, people seem to say, the questioning comes perhaps in relation to, if you say there is, a kind of particular intelligence with regard to, let's say, academic intelligence, right? And it's sort of correlated directly to cognition, like thinking in a sense, but isn't necessarily this kind of one-to-one relationship. So because in your framework you have the AQ, IQ, sorry, I can't remember, AQ, IQ, EQ, and CQ, right?
Yeah.
Something like that. Okay, so I've been listening. So yeah, right. So how do you make these sort of alignments like in this way? Because if the theory has been questioned in terms of how it aligns with actual cognitive abilities, yeah.
Okay, so we don't actually completely import the Howard Gardner's kind of multi-intelligences. We actually just import the principles, and it's just a context in which to understand the world, a tool for us to actually make sense. It's more for sense making rather than for it to impact cognitive tool. And very often it's actually more to raise awareness, to allow students, to give them the tools and what Jody said earlier, the metacognition to even notice that these things are going on. So we are not actually using it as teaching kind of a strategies, but more as kind of to help them kind of see the world in this kind of dynamic kind of combination. And
Yeah,
to
so
allow them
maybe
to analyze the situation. Yes, sorry, Eileen.
Yeah, it's all right. So maybe an example would be, because the course starts with how do you land the job, right? And you need to write your resume, you need to write your interview skills, and have interview skills. So what kind of content do you need? So from the IQ side, for example, you need to look at your academics, your qualifications, but we're basically telling them that it's not sufficient. The technical expertise, right? You have to look at your EQ, you need to look at your CQ, cultural quotient, and your ability to handle adversity. So that's the angle that we're coming from. And we do understand that there are quite a lot of, different camps out there when they look at the multi-intelligences framework on its own. Yeah, so that's how we frame it, so that students have something that goes with them throughout all the topics that they go through. That's the idea.
Yeah. But essentially, the methodology, the things that we teach are actually more language awareness. So it's actually a combination of different types of framework coming together rather than just using it to teach. I don't know if I'm making myself clear, but yeah, are you okay with that, Marissa? Any more?
Yeah, I'm fine. So it kind of operates like a lens by which,
Yes.
I mean, if I can use IEM terminology, but lens by which you understand the way it takes place. Because then that's how you differentiate the different types of languages, right, that you find within a particular text. Okay, yeah. All right, thank you.
But thanks for that question. It's very interesting to actually think about. Yeah, now I'm starting to think cognitively, is there any impact?
No, actually, when we discussed, this whole idea of multiple intelligences, we were actually aware of what Howard Gardner really means by multiple intelligences, but then we do not really adopt his framework. We just use the idea to show the learners that, okay, so if you go out there, you want to be so-called future ready, that's the term in NUS is using right now, right? Then you can't just focus on your academic. So you need to look into your empathy, your cultural competence, and all this. If you look at all the data shown by the World Economic Forum in the top 10, 20 skills, whatever, we will see a long list of all those soft skills that the student need to cultivate it as well. So our starting point, like I said, Marissa, I like the word the lens. So we only use it as a lens, but then we adapt it, and then we trying to situate the framework within the professional communication context.
Yeah, and one interesting perspective is the legal perspective, actually, because when we talk to legal, the question is, if we were to take someone else's framework completely, what would that mean, right? Are we going to split the royalties? What are we going to do? So there is that creation, and they informed us, they shared with us that if we are taking a model and we are kind of using it in a different way, then that's okay. So we understood that. So that's the legal part.
Yeah, that gave us a lot of headache.
Yes, I was witness to it. Because Eileen was my office. Yeah, so yeah, I was witness to some of it. Yeah. But thank you for that. That was interesting. It was just something that popped into my head, because sometimes when we talk about, skills, sometimes it becomes like a kind of checklist, like, okay, I am showing emotional like EQ, okay, I'm showing this, right? But I mean, it really should be thought of as a bit more holistic sometimes, right? Rather than, like a checklist, and just because I've got that, it means that I am showing, emotional sort of understanding, right? Because it works with other things as well. Yeah. But thank you. Yeah.
Actually, interesting that you should say that, because we're dealing with cultural awareness, we've got to be very careful about the sensitivities. And if we are a bit too prescriptive about it, then we will be fringing on being stereotypical and prescriptive, and that does not work. So actually, a lot of it is actually awareness and getting them to apply these cultures. Because if you think about it, we're participants from all over the world, and cultural awareness applies in different ways for different people. So again, we have to be very careful to tread on principles rather than the specifics itself.
Yeah, I mean, it's good that you brought it up, because that's one of the critiques actually of intercultural communication as it's taught nowadays, that it seems to prioritize a particular, well, some people say Western centric, right? Form of intercultural, understanding.
Exactly.
Exactly like how you've mentioned, it can be quite difficult. So that gives you challenges as well, right? Because you're trying to teach something as a kind of exemplar.
Yeah,
but yet
and trying
at the
to
same
balance,
time,
and to balance the different views.
Yeah, that's right. So so it's interesting that was brought up also as well, and it would be interesting to maybe poll your attendees of your course, right, to see how they see this, whether it's something that's flexible or something that is like, oh, it's like this and there's no room for maneuverability. Yeah, but thank you.
Any more questions?
I don't have a question, but maybe it's don't know whether it's a question or comment, but I think it's a long journey, but I'm sure that you found it very fulfilling after putting all this together. As Marissa was talking about the multiple intelligences, I thought initially that you were not using it as a framework, but the other part of it is that whether you've used it as your pedagogy. That means you incorporated this, and then behind the scene, you incorporated all this in your exercises, in your videos, and all that to surface these whatever is 9 intelligences that he talked about, Gardner talked about. Of course, there are, like you said earlier, there were some contentious issues. There were also contentious issues with Hofstede and Hofstede intercultural. It's not evidence-based and so on and so forth. So I just wonder whether moving forward, are these some of the things that you would be looking into, because if it is going to be, framework-based, theoretically underpinned, whether this would kind of like, how would you address the comments that come about, the conceptual comments like this?
Jody, do you want to take this one, or do you have to go?
Actually, I have to go, but sorry. But thank you, Casey, for the thought and the suggestion. And I understand that there's some issue with all these theoretical that we have looked into. So definitely moving forward, we will look into the latest development in the intercultural communication field, and we can see how we can adapt or revise the material to make it even more nuanced for the learners. I think that in the student feedback, one of the comments I think that also mentioned, a learner actually mentioned that the content about intercultural communication is kind of basic. And I understand this comment, but like Sylvia mentioned, we really have to treat it lightly. But once again, moving forward, definitely we will look into this and see how we can present it not in a myopic way, but rather, to demonstrate the nuances. Yeah. In fact, I think that in some of the students' response, in one of the example I showed earlier, some students did manage to identify certain kind of characteristics. But once again, when we talk about characteristic, immediately that makes us think about stereotyping. But it's but that's the whole thing about, the attempt to identify or explain or describe a particular cultural patterns. What they want to say is that it's not generalizable to entire population, but these are some of the observable instances of behavior that could have been underpinned by some kind of belief and practices, right? So it's a very rich field, very rich literature that we have to look at, definitely.
Yeah, and I think we're not saying that they must follow or subscribe to a particular way of thinking, but we introduce different ways of looking at things. And coming back to the multi-intelligence model, we didn't take everything from, we didn't take everything, and we kind of blended to come up with our own combination to use throughout the course. Sylvia, is there something you want to add on?
No, actually, listening to all of this reminds me of the current political debates on the CIMO, right? The races, the Chinese, Indian, Malay. It's actually a very similar kind of a situation where over the years, Hofstadter's research was like done a long time ago, right? And so things would have evolved from there. Bye, Jody. Thanks for.
Bye, Jody.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you. Sorry, everyone. I have to go for another meeting. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for your attention. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Things would have evolved from there. It's just like the CIMO kind of a dichotomy. And now we have to rethink. So here is where, how do we talk about culture if you have a person who is born in India, grew up in the States, now live in China? Then how do we talk about cultural and intercultural communication? I think it's a very rich ground for looking into. But when we do a module like this MOOC, especially, then we need to, one of the ideas is that it's very streamlined because it's online and digitalized. But I think there is room for us to build in more of this and maybe have more discussion forums on this kind of topics to kind of, bring it to reality, to transport it from the theoretical realm into what's happening in the world nowadays and how this has all changed, and to question assumptions. And that's all part of the kind of critical thinking that we're trying to cultivate in a way. Yeah. So, okay, so where do we go from here? Any other questions, or does that answer your question, Casey? Or your
I just think that this is, it takes so much time for you to do this. I'm sure that the module it's very well done. I haven't gone in there to take a look, but from what the snippets that I've seen, I'm sure it's very, very well done, and all the effort that you've put into it. I think these are just some suggestions to look into the underlying principles that undergird, because it's a very, it could be contentious lah.
Actually, we've been very aware of that from the start. We were telling ourselves we need to tread very carefully because, this is a very sensitive issue. And especially when we're opening it up to the rest of the world, it's scary. It was really scary. So in that sense, we had to be very conscious and very careful. But I'm glad you brought this up, because then it opens up a lot of room for debates and actually for us to deepen this even further.
So for the revamp, we're really thinking about this, and thank you for highlighting this point, and we'll look into it a bit more.
Thank you. Esther or Andre, do you have a question? So you've joined us for today's session. Would you like to contribute at all?
I was just wondering about the production of the videos and how much you basically had for the budget.
Okay, so for our budget, we have in-house IT people. So we actually came up with a contingency budget of up to about 25,000, but they told us that everything can be done in-house, and therefore our entire budget actually dropped down to about 10,000. In the end, we spent about 10,000, but that was more so for outdoor filming, in which we had to get extra crew for lighting and all that sort of things. For post-production matters, it was very much done by our in-house technicians. So that's why our budget was all right. Thank you for that question.
That sounds very decent. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Does Yuri have a question?
Hi, yes. No, well, not so much of a question, but I mean, building on what Casey said earlier about Hofstede's, right? My OCC team, actually, we're doing our focus for the OCC the next semester will be on intercultural communication in online settings. So if one particular framework that I think you might want to consider, I mean, if you ever want to kind of like consider, will be one by Alex Matveev, 2017. I'll put it in the chat link.
Great.
Cultural competence in organizations. So yeah, you can have a look at this. Okay, let me just yeah. So anyway, yeah, my OCC team consists of Gatling, Tara, and myself. Yeah, so we are looking into this for the oral communication.
Okay, that's wonderful. Then we can chat more about it too. Because we were looking at different frameworks that were out there. We brought in quite a few, so this will be very interesting for us. Thank you so much for that.
So this is, I guess, a little bit more updated.
Updated, yeah.
Yeah, that would be very useful. Yes. Yeah. Thank you.
No worries.
So there are very few of us left here.
If there are no more questions, I guess we can go for lunch.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. So I was hoping to get more participants, but we are recording the session and it will go up on the journal's webpage. So there is a CELC speaker series and it will go up there for people to see if they haven't managed to participate. Of course, it's a busy time of the semester, isn't it?
Yep.
But thank you so much for such a comprehensive and engaging talk. Really fascinating, and all the work that you've done is quite incredible.
Thank you.
So yeah, I mean, there's a lot for people to learn from watching this talk. So yeah, if nobody would like to add anything, I think we'll close off. And thank you again for making such an interesting talk.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, goodbye.
Thank you.
Thanks for that journey.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Well done. Bye.
Bye.